I'd like to extend a welcome to you all and to explain a little bit about this liaison that I have with Arfaq. To explain a little bit, my work is as a perfumer, and about 18 months, maybe 20 months ago, we opened this perfumery, and I had never intended in my career to open a perfume shop. It was not my idea. But you know, they say that Englishmen are all shopkeepers, a nation of them, so I've now become one, so I've fulfilled my destiny as an Englishman. When I met Arfaq, this perfumery is very specifically a perfumery about the finest creations in the world. When I trained, the average time to train was around 15 years. It's one of my set party pieces. I always like to say surgeons, literally after about 7 or 8 years, are fully trained to take your life in their hands. After 7 years, I'd finished learning the oils and had another 7 or 8 years to go to learn how to blend. So my perfumery is very much a place which is about great creativity. When a perfumer maybe would spend somewhere between 2 and 3 years working on a composition, it was the normal time when I started. It wasn't unheard of for a perfumer to maybe work for 4 or 5 years on a creation. Today, most of the perfumes that come into the marketplace, I wonder if you can guess how long a perfumer is generally given when they're given a brief. When you all go mad about the latest designer brand, how long do you think has gone into the perfume creating? Anybody like to guess? A year?
6 months.
6 months? If you're lucky, you'll get 3 months today. Most perfumes that come on the market, the perfumers that I know are given 3 weeks to make something, and the latest craze is to get 3 days. Now, for me, I create perfumes, very specific perfumes, for private individuals, one of the few bespoke perfumers in the world. And I take however long it takes. And when I start a relationship with a client, they have to understand that. That people always want to know, when will you have it ready? And it's simple, when it's finished. And I'm getting old now, so I'm in the luxury of being able to say such things. So anyhow, I suddenly one day met this man Arfaq, and we sat and we talked, and we suddenly realized that a lot of people didn't maybe get what he's about, and lots of people don't always quite get what I'm about or what drive me, the things that drive me. And there were a lot of things that were common. It was one particular thing, I would say, and it is a passion for perfection. In a world where most people look for a quick buck and a quick something or other, to look for something which is enduring and something which is truly qualitative. So I belong to, not want to sidetrack, but I hope this is loosely interesting. I was commissioned by a very important title, which, not being funny, most people never have heard of, so there's no reason why you should have. It's called Viewpoint. It is a trends prediction title. It costs £45 an issue, global title, and all the main captains of industry and all the fashion houses and so on will buy this thing. Anyhow, they were commissioned by Centurion Card of American Express to start something called the Future Laboratory. You'll understand how pertinent this is to what you're just about to hear in a second. They took 100 people who they considered to be the most important people in the world in their spheres. Other members of the Future Laboratory were Tyler Brûlé, who was the man who founded wallpaper, Alexander McQueen, who I'm sure you all know, and in the perfumery world they asked me. And after an enormous amount of research, the one thing that came was very simple. What is the future of luxury? But before I tell you what that answer was, here's a question for you. What is luxury?
Time.
Exactly. And when you hear that most perfumes today, are made in 3 weeks, I couldn't agree with you more. So real luxury for me, most people look at a price ticket, and a price ticket is what tells someone it's luxury. And I think people muddle that which is expensive and that which is truly luxurious. And I think they're not the same thing at all. And the one thing that this very important body came up with was the future of luxury is bespoke. That if you really have money, if you have true wealth, then what you really want is something which is made for you. It isn't a label, because labels are actually commonplace. And you can go to any market stall somewhere and buy the rip-off And if you don't know whether you've got the real thing or the, you know, what's it all about? So this was about real luxury being bespoke. So we go back to the story sitting with Arfaq. In fact, the first story was actually a different story. It's something which is still to come. And Arfaq invited me to a very particular screening of a film. And at the end of this screening, I sat and said to him, well, that tells me, and I won't say the things because they were very personal, and he said, you absolutely have exactly what it was down to the last heartbeat. And I said, it was very clear to me. And a lot of people there were saying to me, what was that all about then? I thought, well, you either get it or you don't. So what is this fragrance V1 all about? I'd like to, you'll see everywhere in the room, we use a very specific florist. It's a man I adore working with called William Clark. And we wanted to make this story about roses, because this is a perfume based around this noble flower, the rose. I don't know if you've ever stopped to think, today most perfumes made have around 15% natural materials, if you're lucky, the rest are chemical. This is a perfume based very heavily around natural componentry. So on the table you'll see a lot of roses, behind where you sit you'll see roses, everywhere there are roses. But with all the roses you see in this room, we would only be able to make literally a few drops of oil. To make 1 kilogram of fine grade rose oil, you would need a man to deliver you a bouquet of flowers with at least 308 to 310,000 blossoms. Try to imagine that volume of flowers, every one of them picked by hand and processed by hand. The cost of the natural oils is extraordinary, which is why most people don't use them. But man hasn't been able to replicate nature. Nature gives us the most beautiful gift, so we have to have people picking these blossoms to create beautiful, beautiful oils. I don't know if you know, but in certain religions there is a saying that wherever there is a rose, there is always also an angel, which is quite a nice thought. Maybe it's true. Before I talk more about perfume, I wanted to explain why did I put this box on a little square, a little cube of red roses. For me, I wanted something which looked like a cushion, a beautiful velvet cushion. So these were velvet roses, because I think that what you're about to discover is like a fairy tale. It's like Cinderella and the glass slipper. It is something which maybe every woman would dream to own, and many men wouldn't mind to have too. It is something totally magical and away from reality. And I think in a world which is so fast, where we would love to have time, to have things which help us escape are really quite beautiful. So this perfume, a harmony around rose, with another very important blossom, the jasmine. And if you think that it's difficult for us picking 308,000 roses to 310,000, depending on the yield of oil, when we come to jasmine, it's a whole different story. We have to pick jasmine before the sun kisses it. The minute the sun is up, the jasmine starts to lose its odor. And we need to pick a minimum of 5 million blossoms, every one by hand, to give us 1 kilo of the oil. I am one of the only people in the world who buys Grassoise jasmine. It's very rare. 3 houses buy it commercially, and to my knowledge I'm the only private individual who buys it for my creation. I normally pay £24,000 to £25,000 a kilo for it. Gold bullion is normally £8,500 to £9,000 a kilo, just to put that in context for you. Last year the Grassoise jasmine went up overnight to £60,000 a kilo. So when you look at perfumery, you need to know really what's in the bottle, not the price tag on the thing. It's like that. So here is a story which I like talking to the press about. When you start with a box which isn't an ordinary box, it is a box made in any wood you might wish, in any color you might wish, with any marquetry in the top you might wish, so you can begin your own personal fantasy. It's not an ordinary box, for the box is made by the cabinet makers of Rolls-Royce. So if the person in your life doesn't get round to buying you a car, at least here's the starting point for one of the greatest luxury brands in the world. So here you have this beautiful, beautiful box, made out of any color wood you like, with any marquetry you like from the cabinet makers of Rolls-Royce. And then when you open it up, you'll see an inside which is lined in leather. And the beauty of leather for me is very specific, because it makes a marriage in the origin of perfumery. For the very first perfumers were in fact glove makers. And so there's always been an association between the glove maker and the perfumer, the Guild of Dentier Parfumeurs, and leather has this incredible ability to hold scent. So in the future, this casket, which is almost to be an heirloom, will become scented with 1 million memories of the person who wears the perfume. So we now have Connolly doing the leather, one of the finest leather houses in the world, in the casket made by Rolls-Royce. I've told you a little bit about the perfume, but not a lot, some of the rarest materials you can find. And then we come to a bottle, but not an ordinary bottle. Why not just take 1 kilogram of platinum and have it molded into a beautiful form? For that's precisely what Arfaq has done. Taken the most precious of materials on earth to create a beautiful vessel to hold a magical liquid. I remember very clearly saying to him one day, when I first saw this thing, "That is the most fantastic red, the stopper and the side." I said, "What's that made out of?" as I'm merrily rubbing it. And he said to me, "It's resin." I said, "Is it? Isn't it fabulous?" I said, "What a lovely colour." He said, "Yes, I have rubies ground up and mixed into the resin, and that's how I get the shade." So I thought, yes, what else would you do to get just the right shade? And then the neck of it, 2 intertwined golden bands surrounded by brilliant cut diamonds. I always think it's a little bit like when 2 lovers come together to kiss when I look at this thing, as the stopper comes down into the bottle and the 2 bands form to make a double row of brilliant cut diamonds, which make us wonder what we'll smell when we separate them. So, what have I missed? A box like this, with such a precious cargo, you're certainly not going to leave for anyone to go meddling inside, so we have to have it locked up. What type of key would do? Yale, Chubb, Ingersoll? No, this is the world of Rolls-Royce. Crushed rubies, platinum, Connolly leather, diamonds. And so Arfaq commissioned maybe one of the very finest jewelers in the world, famous for the quality of their stones. He commissioned Graf to make a little key, and the little key, of course, couldn't just be any key. It had to be made from gold, but gold wasn't good enough. It had to be surmounted with diamonds, but not a few, all over, totally encrusted, with a little band of rubies to mark the end of where the key makes the contact that opens the precious box that reveals the beautiful liquid. But what point is a key put on your key ring and slung in a handbag or a pocket? Not at all. Why not make it a beautiful piece of jewellery that you can hang from your neck, so that when people come near to look at the piece of jewellery, maybe they fall in love with the smell that you just put either side of your collarbone, and so the magic of a perfume begins. So it is an enormous honour for me that I have this fragrance V1 in my perfumery. It is a very special perfume. It is a perfume truly out of the realm of the ordinary. It is not a perfume for anyone. It is a perfume that I very proudly talk to people about and say to them, yes, it's just for a few people. No apology on the price. It's created through genius, with everything about it which is truly qualitative. So I put a little bit of this scent on a strip for you to smell. To explain, these strips are not made from a normal paper. Nothing in my world is normal. It's I had a big article written in The Independent this weekend, an interview with me, and I said I love going to New York, and the reason I do it smells filthy and it smells of petrol and metal and dirt, and the reason I like it, it's grounding, because I live in too beautiful a world. So back into the world of beautiful things. This paper is as near as we can find to human skin. It has no glue or binding agent, and a little drop of this scent has been put on the end so you can discover the rarest most costly perfume in the world. It is a perfume which combines this marriage of rose and jasmine, the eternal feminines, the eternal luxuries of perfumery, with a wonderful note of geranium on the top. I don't know how well you know the note of geranium, but there's a little note of rose geranium interplaying with a citrus note before it opens down into a base where you discover beautiful woods with a little vanillic note which gives it softness and warmth and intimacy. So here is V1. Please smell it and enjoy every second of it. So this is something created. Well, I don't know whether it's for me to say Arfaq can if he likes. I don't know if he keeps his clients secret.
That's fine, you feel free.
So it's bought by a prince, not Prince Charles, another prince. And here is its little key. I don't know if you can see it. I think it's absolutely exquisite. Then we come with its box. But there's one other marvelous thing about this, because this is when you really meet genius. When somebody thinks of all the things that nobody really would think of and bothers to have them done, even though they most likely have been more difficult to do than all the obvious things. For in here, when it opens, you suddenly see a little light come. It has a halogen light to show the beauty of the bottle, which is on a timer, of course, so it's totally eco-friendly, I'm sure. So here you see this marvelous red. I'll show it over this side in a second. The kilo of platinum with the 18 karat gold on the neck, with the 2 bands of diamonds. And I really hope you agree got it. Look at this. Tell me it's not one of the most extraordinary things you've seen. And I don't know how the light comes through the red, but every now and then I hope it just comes. And you see this incredibly vivid shade, which was the one thing that caught my eye. You know, in nearly all the major religions in the world, the color red is considered a spiritual color and a totally protective color. So I hope that always the person that wears this perfume is protected, has a happy life, and has one of the most beautiful things in the world sitting in their home.